Here it is, Sunday afternoon, sun shining. I can see the top of the trees blowing back and forth. They're starting to fill out now with their leaves. Oh, that's when I can look out and enjoy what I see. I've had my afternoon nap. I needed that after a busy night last night. As you know, I've told you that Jan was having her 50th class reunion. She handled the whole works. She did a fantastic job. There were a lot of students that came to their class reunion, and I think every one of them left feeling good about what they had seen and their friends and the little speeches that were made, and Jan got a lot of compliments on the work she had done, and she deserved it. So I mention this partly because there were 4 mothers there helping at the front desk, taking care of name tags, taking the money. Jan was giving little gifts to each one of them as they came in, so someone had to hand those out and explain them. And what I found interesting was there were very few of those people that I could recognize, but they recognized me, and I found it so interesting when they would walk up and point to me and say, YouTube. Well, I knew what they meant. They had seen me on YouTube, Granny Pat. And I didn't know that many of Jan's friends were watching me on YouTube. That's quite a compliment, you know, especially when they recognize you and comment. Now, I do want to point out one young man. I say young man because he's younger than I am. He came up to me and he wanted to inquire about my stories, about how I learned to tell stories, and what a terrific job I did with my storytelling. He was so complimentary. I was just taken aback by the words he said. And he said he and his wife both watch me all the time. And he thinks that I am very good at storytelling. Now, that's his words, not mine. But he made me feel so good about myself that I thought, well, maybe I can do this. Maybe I just need to put a little more effort into it. If he thinks I'm that good and others keep complimenting me, maybe I do have the talent, I guess you'd call it a talent, for storytelling. But I wanted to pass that along because every now and then we need something or someone to say something to lift our spirits, to make us feel good about ourselves. And he did. And I want him to know that. I think he knows who he is because he was the only one there that did that, although the others did recognize me from YouTube. That was good. Very successful class reunion. Pass that along to any of the classmates that did not make it to the reunion. Get with your friends. Ask them what they thought about it. I think you'll be surprised at what you missed. So much for that. Now, every now and then, someone will make reference to something I said in one of my stories that may have been a year and a half ago, it may have been 7 months ago, and I just don't remember what they're talking about. What do you mean? So I have to go back, find that particular story. Hold on just a second. The nose is giving me problems. What did I say in that story that she's referring to? So I have to go back and watch myself telling that story in order to be able to answer her question. Well, this one just happened to be one it was one fairly recent, but that doesn't mean I'm going to remember it because it was 3 weeks ago. I can forget it because it was yesterday. This one had to do with a chick here and a chick there and chick everywhere, something like that. That was the story. And I went back and I watched it, and then I knew what she meant by her question. Well, speaking of chickens, I got to thinking about that, and I thought, yeah, I'll talk about chicken. Yes, nobody fried chicken better than my mother did. All of you are going to say the same thing. Your mother fried the best chicken too. But there's so much involved. And actually, the story was in reference to how to bone a chicken. It's the one where I smush the plastic bag and get all of the chicken off of the bones and pull it apart. So, I got to talking about when my mother would get up every morning. She had this great big bread pan. It was black from years of use. That would hold 24 biscuits. Every morning, my mother made biscuits for breakfast. 24 of them. And if there were leftovers, the leftovers stayed on top of the stove during the day. Kids came in, Mom, I'm hungry, I want something to eat. There's some biscuits on the stove, get you one. Well, what we would do, we'd get one of those cold biscuits, put a little butter on it, and a little jelly on it. That was a snack for the afternoon. That took care of the leftover biscuits. Now, what I'm getting to is she always had enough biscuit dough left. Well, first of all, her biscuit cutter, she wasn't one that dropped biscuit. I never did like the drop biscuit. I want my biscuit shaped. And she used a carnation cream can for years and years. That was her biscuit cutter. She cut out every biscuit. Now, 24 biscuits. But she had all this little leftover dough around them, And you know how you pick that up and you do this with it, and you make a pone of bread. Other people will say a pone of bread was cornbread. At our house, a pone of bread was the leftover biscuit dough from my mother's pan of biscuits. She molded that up, and when she got through, she had a biscuit about the size of a bread and butter plate. She put that in the oven while we would eat supper. It was either breakfast, dinner, supper, it didn't matter. We had biscuit 3 times a day. That's what we wanted. So she would put that pone of bread in the oven and let it bake while we were eating our biscuits and gravy for supper. Now, when we finished, she opened the oven door. Out came that big biscuit pan, and there was that fresh pone of bread. And Mama would break it in half, put it on a plate for Daddy, and you could see the steam rising from that bread. Oh my God. The rest of us kids were watching because we didn't get to eat the pone of bread. That was Daddy's dessert. Dessert at our house was this. In the center of the table was a jar of molasses, Karo syrup, and honey. And you might have some grape jelly. You had your choice. So Mama would put a big dollop of butter in the middle of that pone of bread, and you'd watch it melt. And then Daddy would reach over for whichever item he wanted. Sometimes it might be the honey, it might be jelly, and he added a big dollop of that on top of the melted butter. That was dessert through the week. A real dessert came on Sunday. It might be banana pudding, it might be coconut cream pie, oh, it could be various things. But that would be the big dessert of the week. The rest of the week, you watch Daddy eat his pone of bread, and if he didn't eat it all, you could finish it up for him, but you got the molasses. Now, a lot of people will tell you that a pone of bread was cornbread. I don't agree because I go with what my mother did, and nobody cooked better than she did, and she called that leftover biscuit dough a pone of bread. And that was the nightly dessert at our kitchen table. Now, I know I had more of this to give you. Talking about fried chicken. A lot of people say they don't like Kentucky Fried Chicken. Well, I'm one of those knows a whole lot more about Colonel Sanders than most of you know because we came from the same town. And everybody that came from that town can tell you the history of Colonel Sanders. Some good, some not so good, and some even worse. So I'm not going to go into detail about the Colonel because I might get myself in trouble if the wrong people are listening to me. I can't say that he was one of my favorite people, but I will say this. I like Kentucky Fried Chicken. I won't take the time to fry chicken when I can run right up the street to KFC and get a good chicken breast, a biscuit, and he does make the best biscuits of any of your fast food places. I'll admit that. His biscuits are the best, and he makes good coleslaw. I like his coleslaw, and I'm very picky about coleslaw. So I will say, when I get in the mood for fried chicken, I haven't fried chicken in years. I just get in the car, drive up the street, go through the drive-thru, get my chicken breast. Sometimes I get the original recipe, and sometimes I get the special, well, I forgot what you call it, but anyway, I get the chicken breast, I get my biscuit, I get my coleslaw, and I come home, and that's my supper. That's how I eat fried chicken today. But my point is, you're going to have an argument among different people about a pone of bread. I grew up watching my mother put a pone of bread in the oven every time we had biscuits. And that's what she called it. Others say it's cornbread. Now, if it's cornbread, Daddy puts an extra piece of cornbread on his plate at the end of the meal. He slices it, adds a dollop of butter on it, good hot cornbread. It starts to melt, and that's when he reaches for the molasses. The molasses go with the cornbread. That is his dessert. Well, we kids didn't care that much about molasses anyway, so we freely let Daddy eat his molasses on his cornbread, his pone of bread, as some people would say. So, that's basically the only thing I have to say. I've got several messages waiting for me to check them out. And this one on the saltine crackers has just been a blessing. People have sent so many little stories about how they ate soda crackers when they were young. I told you about sending soda crackers to the Smoky Mountains when the people's homes burned. There's so many stories you can tell about saltines or soda crackers and even Ritz crackers. Now, I loved Ritz crackers when I was a kid with my beef vegetable soup and my tomato soup. You had certain crackers you ate with certain things. That's the way it works. And I could eat Ritz crackers. They didn't have to have anything on them. I'd just get a handful of Ritz crackers, and that was my snack for the day. The soda crackers, I'm amazed at the stories that can be told about the Depression years and the World War II, when all the foods were rationed, and what people were able to do with crackers, how they survived. They never argued over what they were eating. They were just happy to get the meal. And you think about that. Someone sitting down at a table in a small restaurant and asking for a cup of hot water and reaching for the ketchup and the crackers on the table. Add to the hot water and a little salt and pepper. And that was their one meal for the day, tomato soup. I never ate something like that. I never had to. I was one of the more fortunate ones that had real tomato soup on my table. So those of you who can remember those days, they'll soon be gone, you know, and you won't have your stories to tell. But be sure you tell them to your children and your grandchildren. I want them to remember the old days through you. They can say, my mother, my dad, my grandmother told me these stories, and they're all true. So, I've got on my new blouse. Actually, it's really not that new. I bought it 4 months ago. Was going to wear it to the class reunion last night, and instead, I found another blouse in the closet I'd forgotten about that had that beautiful turquoise green, like my green glasses. Oh, okay. That's what I wore, and I wore my green glasses. So everybody got to compliment my glitzy rhinestone glasses. And it was a good night. Good night for everybody, and a good night for the mothers of 4 people attending that class reunion. So if you are watching me and you were at that reunion, be sure and send Jan a message and tell her how much you appreciated her efforts in giving you a successful 50th class reunion, one that you will remember. So, have a good day. It's the middle of the afternoon already. And I'm going to go in and see what I can do with some leftover chicken. Yeah, I've got leftover chicken, so I hate to throw something like that out. It's always good, even just for a snack. You have a good dinner, you have a good day, and thank you for watching me. And please tell your friends to subscribe. Oh, and I want to make this point. You know, I pointed out once, not too long ago, that I was losing subscribers. Actually, I read up on that, and I was not really losing subscribers. Somehow YouTube just holds back with sending the messages to the subscribers. You're still a subscriber. And do you know that in the last 2 or 3 weeks, I've had at least 250 new subscribers? I'm just amazed at that. And the viewers have increased. That's such a delight to see the numbers increase. When you can see that, you know you're doing a good job. And that's what I want. I want to let you get the best that I can give you. And I may repeat a few things here and there, but sometimes you have to go back to the old stories to pick up something that you may have forgotten. So stay with me. And to the young friend of Jan from her class reunion, I want to thank you for the compliment you paid me last night. It is so rewarding to have someone see the best in you. And thank you much. So you have a good day.